Are we live?
Live to me. So live in 0 seconds. I assume you're live.
We're live.
Okay, we're live.
Hi there. Hey. Hey, everybody.
Woo.
Good to see you guys again. Welcome back to Clarified Realty Podcast Happy Hour. I'm here with my usual partner in crime, Ron Bruno. Ron, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Tom.
Good, good.
Hi to everybody out there.
Hello, everyone. Welcome aboard. I'm also here with Mike Ambers.
How do?
Mike Ambers is actually a producer on House Hunters. Is it international or just House Hunters?
Just domestic.
Just domestic.
Yes, domestic.
Foreign, no, not foreign, domestic.
No, just the regular everyday one.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to just kind of, while everybody's kind of gathering in the Facebook room, we'll just kind of chat about our weekends.
Sure.
We had a Memorial Day weekend.
Yes.
Did you have a good weekend?
I did. I was taking care of wife. She was not.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Karen's not feeling well.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear
So-
that. Sorry, Karen. Bye, Karen.
Hi.
Hi, Karen. Hope you
you
feel
feel
better.
She's feeling a little better today. So I took care of her, and we got to play a little bit during the week. We went to Universal City
Nice.
Studios on Tuesday, so that was fun.
Good. Yeah, I went to...
No crowds.
No crowd. Now, you
No
know what was
crowds.
weird? I went to California Adventure yesterday,
All right.
and strangely enough, it was not that crowded. I was...
Really?
I know why.
Why?
Because everybody was at Disneyland trying to get on Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, no. I'm telling you that I was at California Adventure. That's where Guardians of the Galaxy is.
I thought it was in
No,
the
it's
Disney
in
park.
California Adventure.
Well,
and we
Guardians
went
of the Galaxy was actually at
it was-
California Adventure.
Yeah, it's the former Tower of Terror.
But I thought that was in the main park.
No.
Oh.
No.
Well,
and we
then I
actually
stood corrected.
we crossed through the line, and we saw this huge line. It was like, it was a 5-hour line. You don't even bother at that
know.
point. You know.
There are some things I would wait 5 hours for. A 3-minute ride?
No.
That's not one of them.
Not gonna be
that's
it.
not even number 4 or 5 on the list.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. But then I also had a wonderful time this Saturday at your Mike had a seminar for Producers
yeah, I
Guild
saw that.
members.
Yeah,
that
thank
was
you.
all about. Tell them a little bit about that. So.
I've been working on this seminar for about 2 years now, and it was basically born out of conversations with colleagues and friends in my area of the industry, how we love what we do, but at a certain point you kind of want to see what other options are available.
Yeah.
Given your skill set. And so what I came up with was, it was subheaded as what else? Alternative job opportunities for producers. And I had a panel of 4 people, some who came in from as far away as Florida,
Wow.
to
Wow.
discuss opportunities in the digital spectrum, opportunities for transition into different aspects of the business, whether it was, on the studio side or on the network side or in a production company, or even how to take the skills a producer has and put them to the quote-unquote real world.
Right. And, I was lucky enough to, Mike was nice to ask me to speak a little bit there. And it was really, it was emotional. It was actually, there were portions of it that were very emotional because when you go from one life to another life, you sometimes have to kind of have this period of mourning, for lack of a better word.
I think it's a great word.
And, for me, when I went from being a visual effects producer into real estate, making that kind of choice of who I am, it was very interesting and
Yeah, and I think once you get of a certain age, you kind of yearn for that stability. You have more responsibilities. You hopefully have a mortgage. You've got a family. And as much as I kind of enjoyed the hustle of working and then not working and then working and not working, that hustle...
it grinds you down.
It comes with a burden.
It really grinds you down.
Not really knowing when the next paycheck is coming. It
Yeah.
could be 3 weeks. It could be 3 months away.
Absolutely.
It's great when you're in your 20s, but when you're in your 30s and 40s, unless you can really keep hustling and always have something lined up.
Absolutely.
You start a job. I used to start a job and update my resume immediately, started looking for my next job.
No, but I think that's something that people don't do so often, is that like they get into the gig and they're like, oh, phew, I don't have to do anything now. I can just, sit here for the next 6 months and be okay.
6 months, that's a
Or
lifetime.
whatever,
But I know, you know what I mean.
I was in longer projects, but
Yeah.
but I really should have been kind of going out there and touching people, but that's another way to get into gigs, but it's not the best way.
Yeah, and another podcast too.
Yeah, another podcast. It was a great seminar, and
Thank
you for having it.
Oh, absolutely. We had about 160, 170
it was
people in the
packed
room.
room.
Packed and we got some good accolades
That's
about
great.
it.
Fabulous. And I did want to, one of the main reasons that I wanted to have you here today, and one of the things we're going to start chatting about now is we're going to talk about the general nature of the market right now. And I know that because, I mean, you're dealing with homes from coast to coast on your show. What are you seeing out there in terms of, I'm wondering if it jibes with what's kind of what I'm seeing.
I've only done a few shows that have been based out of Southern California, but obviously living here, I know a little bit more about what's going on in the market. But nationwide, what I'm seeing, or what I've seen just anecdotally, is that there are some markets that are super hot, and rebounding, and others that you would think are rebounding and are actually you're priced out of now. Like Detroit 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago was a real bargain. Now, prices are at pre-recession levels.
Yeah,
Detroit is not a bargain anymore.
And it's funny. It was. I was listening to in my office. Literally, somebody, trying to get on the phone to different, areas like Milwaukee, Cleveland, trying to find those last
Cleveland
last good
is
homes.
Anything in the Rust Belt.
Yeah,
Cleveland, Cincinnati, are ones that you can still find a bargain. From what I've seen and what I've heard from other realtors across the country and other shows I've done, the next big city to gentrify, Pittsburgh.
I could totally see that.
Pittsburgh.
I mean, if Cleveland is going to go that way, or Detroit, I can only imagine it's another steel town.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Pittsburgh is the next big city.
You heard it here first. Start looking for investments there.
Florida seems to be super hot. We have a lot of shows based out of Florida. Actually, pretty much any major city in the South. I've done a bunch of Florida, Tampa, Fort Lauderdale, Miami. Atlanta is big. I don't know that there are a lot of bargains there right now because it is so popular, but Atlanta is huge. North Carolina is very big right now. And for whatever reason, Chicago continues to be very, very solid. I have done a ton of shows in Chicago.
Really?
Yeah.
Chicago?
There are no bargains there.
This is now the obligatory Go Chicago.
Yeah.
Go Cubs, go!
Oh, son of a...
It was a great weekend series, wasn't it, Ron?
Oh, man!
Great weekend series.
Something about that.
God damn it.
It was a sweep by the Dodgers.
Swear to God. I'm one non-sports guy in the world, and I'm stuck in a sandwich between these two.
Well, the World Series was, man, that was killer.
That was how many months ago? I mean,
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Look, once a century.
Past glory.
Exactly.
But that's, and that's kind of jiving with what I'm saying. And before anybody starts going, oh, bubble, 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 I'm not seeing that yet. And I've always told my audience that if I do ever see that coming down the pipe, I will be the first to throw up a flag. I will say, okay, guys, there's a problem here. I've said that there are things that we should be watching out for, and that I have been hearing things out on the street about HELOCs potentially turning toxic. But we're keeping our eye open on that. We're not seeing that yet at all. You're
Well,
have you been seeing more
in terms of
that
toxic, I mean, basically what
it's such that word is so.
The challenge with HELOCs is it's like a credit card, right? So everybody at the beginning of the year received their new credit card statement, and in the mail there was something that said that your APR has now gone up by 1% percentage point.
Right.
And that's because interest rates moved. Right. So HELOCs act like credit cards from that standpoint.
Yeah.
The toxicity, if you will, is when you have a balance that is increasing and at the same time rates are going up. That's obviously a challenge because your payments are going up. But the biggest issue is once you get out of the fixed interest only portion and it resets to a full amortization, whether it's 30 years or God forbid a 15-year, that's really where you have to watch out.
Absolutely.
Right. So your payments could go from $200 a month to $700 or $800,
and that could be a big shock to people, and they can sometimes not survive that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they
just don't have the resources to cover it.
The biggest extreme I've seen was someone who was paying $2,000. They had a $700,000 interest only. What their mortgage was for their HELOC, and it went from $2,000 to $7,000. It reset to a 15-year amortization because they weren't paying attention. So that's a real issue.
So what do you do when that happens?
You call me before that happens.
It's too late when that happens.
So you want to do it before. You want to do it, not months ahead because it takes time to do, to do the refi and make sure that you're actually qualified, right? So you make sure that you, take care of that years in advance.
Wow.
At minimum a year in advance so that you're ready so that that does not happen.
So I know that we had kind of a news story kind of cross the transom this week about kind of a 180 happening in terms of, we all know that it's really an aggressive seller's market out there. I literally have agents that I know that, will have, they send out on the Instagram, because of course they're boasting, that there's, 20 offers on their desk in the morning, the day after an open house, because that's how kind of aggressive this
It's a real thing, it's a combination. So the article says Freddie Mac pulls a 180 in housing outlook. So this is from Mortgage News Daily. So basically the gist of what the article is saying is, if you look at the beginning of the year and, primarily December of last year, the forecasts were that the market, they were forecasting higher rates, and as such, the purchases were going to be down and refis were going to be down.
Yeah.
Right? So they were forecasting that in all, the real estate industry was going to have a down year.
Yeah, it was going to be kind of stagnant at best.
Right. But what's happened has been the exact opposite.
Right.
So it's
accelerating, I would say.
It's not just accelerating, it's actually on pace to beat this past year.
Right.
Which no one really thought.
Yeah.
Right? Now, part of that is because interest rates have dipped.
Yeah.
They started to dip a little bit in March.
Which, crazy to say that we're still thinking that way. I mean, for the last 2 or 3 years, everybody that I know has been like wanting to be the first to say, okay, now's the time that interest rates are going to start going up. To actually see them start to kind of vacillate and go down, that's like insanity.
Well, it's shocking, but President Trump, I guess, hasn't done all the things he said he was going to do.
What?
I know this is not a political discussion, but
I was going to ask. I wondered if you guys had any thoughts about whether that was sort of born out of the political climate.
I mean, I don't think that absolutely. I think but everybody's kind of. I think that everybody's trying to get behind the pro-business kind of feel of Trump, but at the same point, they don't know what the hell to expect. So So there's this kind of hesitancy in certain categories. So you have like the boomers and the sellers who are kind of not wanting to come out, right? Because they want to keep their cards close to their chest and they don't want to get out there in the market.
Right.
But then we have the buyers who are looking that there's going to be this is what forecasts that I'm seeing in California, there being a 10% appreciation for the next year in houses, 10%. So if they don't climb on now with interest rates where they're at now,
You never get in.
they'll never get in.
Yeah, so traders, they placed their bets after the election in October. Rates shot up by over 50 basis points or half a percentage point. And everyone was thinking, okay, inflation's coming. They're going to be raising rates. They're going to try to stem that inflation because Trump's going to be able to, push all the legislation forward where he was going to have the repatriation of taxes, and businesses were now going to be able to, really benefit from this, and there was going to be this big expansion. Well, it hasn't been easy pushing things through Congress, so that's why rates started to come back down in March, and now we're looking at, I'm definitely not here to quote rates, but
No.
We're looking at potentially rates climbing a little bit, but definitely not at the levels that were expected at the beginning of the year.
Right.
Now the biggest thing, you mentioned this earlier, is when it comes to what's going on is you have a robust economy, right? And the article was talking about a robust economy.
Right.
And you also have millennials that are getting into the market,
Yeah.
right? So they're getting out of mom and dad's home and they're now moving into buying a home for the first time. Couple that
Or at least getting their feelers out.
Or at least putting their feelers out.
Yeah.
But you couple that with what's going on with people just entering the market because it's home buying season.
Yeah.
And it's become a free-for-all.
Yeah.
Right? And at the same time, you also have sellers that are reluctant to actually put their homes on the market. So you have baby boomers where they're in this, there was an article about prisoner's dilemma.
Yeah.
Right? So it's, okay, so...
Where they're locked in.
Yeah, they're locked in because they have a good interest rate because they refied back in 2012 or 2000, after the crash, rates, dropped to the floor. So now they're looking at rates at, 3.5% or so, back then. But now it's maybe a whole percentage point.
Yeah.
And they have to pay the property taxes on buying something brand new, whereas their property taxes are much lower. So it creates this dilemma.
Right.
And it doesn't get them out there to really want to buy.
Yeah.
Or to sell their home and then buy something else.
Right.
So what's happening is you have an increase in the demand, but a decrease in the actual supply.
Yeah.
So that's why you see the craziness at the open houses and 20 offers and everything else.
Right. Which is, and why I wanted to, and by the way, we had originally had a wonderful guest booked, but unfortunately she had a pet emergency. Evelyn, I don't know if you're out there watching. We're very
She
sorry.
is, I saw her.
Hi, Evelyn. Very sorry to hear about your pet. I hope you'll join us on the next podcast. We'll save a spot for you.
Yes.
But we thought that what we do here is because of the market the way that it is, we give you guys some really good solid tips. If you're a buyer out there, that can possibly help you when you go to make your offer.
Yep.
So I've written them down here so I make sure that I don't forget them. It was kind of a last minute thing, but I'll just go through these tips, and Ron, you go ahead and jump in on this.
Sure.
And Mike, if you have anything to say about it, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Happy to.
But tip number one is have your approval all ready to go. It seems incredibly self-explanatory, but it kind of surprises me every single time where I run into a potential client coming in to talk to me and they still haven't even talked to a lender. And you kind of go, well, listen, if you are going to potentially be buying a house this week or the next week or whatever, if you don't have your lender set up, you don't have all your details in,
right,
you're going to get blown out of the water.
Yeah,
you don't have a chance.
100%. And I mean, if you look at, I'm a fan of Silicon Valley, right? The show on HBO.
Yes. I don't know where this is going to go.
Well,
I know
where it's going
if
is...
you start making hand gestures, we're going to
No. I know, it's the Italian thing. I can't help it.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
I didn't hear, what is that?
Center out.
Yes, there you go. So anyways, with Silicon Valley, it's a show where people are trying to get in front of VCs, venture capitalists.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what you need to do in terms of getting your offer accepted. You need to button up and make sure that you have lined everything up. So you have the pre-approval letter, and it's been stress tested in terms of running it against the automated underwriting system. You've looked at all the various options. You have your proof of funds ready to go.
Yeah.
And you have to have those discussions with your lender and as your realtor about contingencies and everything else. But you have to be buttoned up.
Yeah. The next tip, search for homes that are slightly below what you can afford. Now, this is an interesting thing, I think, to hear from an agent. Since my commission comes from a portion of what you spend, usually you get in with an agent and they're like, okay, what's the most you can afford? And that's the top. That's your ceiling. I am going to make an argument, but you want to leave some room to go. In this market, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be going into homes. You're going to say, oh, this is lovely. I love it. Let's go put in an offer. You put in your offer and there's, like I said, 20, 10, whatever, they're offers. So you're going to need to leave yourself room in order to go up. And that's why I say it's probably better to choose an amount that's slightly lower than what your max is so that you actually have room to go up and know what your top is and do not let that, emotions take over and go past that.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that?
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, I had a borrower where, we pre-approved them for $790. It was a duplex out in Silver Lake. And, that happened to be where their top was. But it actually went all the way up to 1.1.
Wow.
So you could play the emotional game and get involved and invested and try to bid everything up. But, I think the biggest challenge with, when you really start to stretch, A, you're not going to get qualified, right, when you go outside of your range. But B, you also have the appraisal issue.
Yeah.
Right? So if a home is listed for $800,000 and that's really what it's worth, the fact that you pay $1 million doesn't mean that it's actually going to be appraised for $1 million.
Right.
Right? So that's why you're seeing a lot of agents, all cash offers, no appraisal contingencies for that very fact.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question: looking at a house that's below your max,
Yeah, right.
So you have room to bid up in case you get into a bidding war. Does that extend to, or is a counter philosophy that maybe you also want to look at a different neighborhood and bet on gentrification, especially here in Los Angeles?
Well, absolutely, and this is, and I'll skip ahead to that as this because that's actually one of my tips.
Okay.
Is about widening your net. If you find that you are hitting that ceiling every single time that you're going out there, it's always a better option to make more options and find a place where you're not hitting your head up against the ceiling. That's sometimes disappointing for folks to hear because they have their heart set on being, a block away from work and all that. But I'm actually more concerned in this market about people not getting in to the market. And I don't mean that in the kind of crazy days of 2007 or whatever when it was the bubble. We're not talking about that. We're talking about an economic environment where that's a potential problem, where people, and by the way, over the past 4 or 5 years, we've had investors come up and just buy up properties left and right, which has made the inventory even less.
Yeah.
And they're not getting rid of those. They're not selling off because they're making good rents on it.
Right.
So I think that
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
probably along what you're talking about.
So people need to be
You have to be open.
open to a neighborhood that they may not necessarily have wanted to, and hope that because there's so little inventory here in LA, that pretty much all neighborhoods are going to gentrify,
I think,
and property values are going to continue to rise regardless.
I think that you always find things that you can fall in love with in areas.
Fair enough.
And I think that's if you keep on hitting some sort of wall, it's always best to find a way around it. So that's what I would be recommending. But the next thing I'd say is, along that line, is don't be afraid of bidding wars. Chances are look, at the end of the day, you should be picking an agent who really knows what they're doing, and one of the things that they should know what they're doing is finding out what the ultimate value of a house is. If the list price is, let's say, $500,000, but they think that the neighborhood can go up to $525,000, well, then that's your top. If you're in a bidding war, it doesn't matter what somebody else is doing or what they're going to bid. If somebody else goes up to $535,000, that's their problem. You're not betting against them. You have your ceiling. Go to your ceiling. I've had clients who literally, it's like, oh, I don't want to get into a bidding war. I'm like, well, why the hell not? That has nothing, it's not a war. It sounds like a war. I want to, you're fighting them in the street. No, you're just basically, your top, and that's your limit.
Yep.
That's it. Let me see here. Tell your story. Next tip is tell your story effectively. And this is something that another thing your agent should be helping to do as well. By that, I don't mean taking a picture of you with your wife and your 2.5 children. I'm really talking about, at the end of the day, when you're in escrow, or when you're making an offer, the seller needs to believe that you're going to actually close, that you are closable, because they want to be able to sleep at night. If they think for some reason that this thing's going to fall through, they're not going to go with you. So it's your agent's I think it's their job to really tell your story in such a way so that the other side really knows that this thing's going to close and you're closable.
Yeah, and just to add
I'm sorry, and by the way, I'm sorry, and that's another real reason why cash is king nowadays, because with cash, there's less things that fall out. There's less, problems with appraisals, less problem with, lender getting you approved. So, sorry, you were about to say.
Sure. So I think the biggest key, there's two parts to that. So the biggest key, number one, is staying engaged. Right? So when the realtor calls you and you have an appointment, make the appointment. When you go to visit the open houses, make sure that you are there early, right? So that you actually, so follow through on your obligations. And then also each particular offer that you make it's its own campaign. Right? So Tom and I, the way we work is he'll put out an offer, and before he even makes the offer, we're already discussing the game plan.
Yeah, we're already coming up with a strategy.
So if they're pre-approved for $1 million, but the home is worth $800,000, well, we're not necessarily going to send a letter to the listing agent.
We're approved for a full million.
Just go ahead, bid me up.
Yeah, come on.
Right?
I can go up.
So we're going to actually customize the pre-approval letter, and then once the letter actually goes and the offer is made, I'll follow up. Right? So that's kind of the secret weapon, if you will.
Right.
I'll actually call the listing agent, and I mean, puppies and everything, those are all cute, but really at the end of the day, they want to know that the client has a low debt to income ratio, that they have a high FICO, that it's LP approved or DU accept, right? So these are just industry terms that, realtors love to hear. And they're putting X amount down, and that we're going to be able to meet all our contingencies because we have streamlined underwriting, in-house processing, all of those things, right? So these are all things that are tangible that they can actually bring to, the listing agent can bring to their clients, that really make your offer stand apart.
Right. Now, I want to take a little pause here because something I should have mentioned at the top of the show is that we're going to be taking questions, by the way. If anybody has any questions, we'd love to hear from you guys. So just let us know. Just type them down in the comments. Ron's going to be looking at the end here to see any questions that are out there. So please be thinking of questions. I'd love to hear some engagement from you guys.
Yeah.
So how are we doing on time? Our director, Jason's in the back there.
5 minutes left.
5 minutes?
Wow.
Well, then that's it. That was probably, well, I want to make sure that while I talk to Mike, I want to talk to Mike about his project that he's got that I think is hysterical.
Thank you.
And I want everybody to check out his project. Why don't you go ahead and check and see if we've got any questions out there. So Mike, if you go to Instagram and check out...
It's mislaid_manholes.
Yes, mislaid manholes. What Mike does is he actually goes around the city and as he sees them, takes pictures have been basically placed wrong. I mean, there's no reason why. I mean,
if Caltrans has come through and restriped a road or something like that, but they haven't pulled up all the paint.
You got to show a picture of that.
And
I'll show
so then the sewer guys go in there and get down in the sewer, and then they replace the manhole. You've got a line on there. It would be
perfectly easy to put up the same way.
And they just go all different ways, and
it's hysterical.
Thank you. I give all credit, actually, oddly enough, to my daughter.
Okay, let's show this one over here. Jason, can you see it there?
You got it?
No, that's in the camera. Down. There we go. Stop. Up.
There you go. So there's one example there.
Yeah, I think that's my cover one.
That's his cover.
It's probably my favorite one because it looks like a train accident waiting to happen.
But it's basically a nightmare for people with OCD.
Well, and it started. I give all credit to my daughter. We were driving one day, I think, to her school, and she says, "You see that? That drives me crazy." And I remember in the back of my mind, I'd thought, a couple.
I've thought it too, by the way.
Oh, yeah, why can't they just line it up?
How hard is it to just line it up?
But it wasn't until she put the words to it. I thought, well, maybe I'm not the only one who thinks that. So I took a picture of one, and I put it up on Facebook, and a couple people responded, so I found another one. And the first one I found was literally right outside my house.
That's hysterical.
Literally in front, and the second one I put up was literally right outside of my gym.
That's funny.
And it just sort of snowballed from there, and people were commenting, "This is amazing, this is stupid, this is amazingly stupid."
Right. Which is good.
Which is awesome.
Somebody saying something.
I just thought it was funny. And
but you've been getting people like sending you these now.
It's actually evolved to where friends have sent me a couple. And then
one from Seattle, I saw.
Yeah, my sister sent me one from Seattle Tacoma Airport.
Oh, so the stupidity knows no city limits.
Not only does it know no city, it's kind of blown up a little bit. I'm hoping it blows up more just because, yay me. But I randomly last week.
Let's see another one. See another one while we're.
Okay. Randomly last week, this guy who I don't even know how he found it, but he found me on Instagram. He sends me a picture and he lives in Davis, California, where I have never been and have never barely know anything about. But he says, this one's in my city, and I said, I've got to use that. Send it to me. And so
awesome.
All credit to him. It's on the page.
You got another one?
Well, that's second. I'm pulling it up. We had a question.
Oh,
this one. I like this one. That one's
here we go. Show that.
All right, Jason, good?
A little back, a little up. There we go.
Look at that one.
Hysterical.
Which one's that one?
This one.
That's the one from Davis. That's the one from Davis. That's the one that was sent to me from Davis, California.
So it's funny when I was looking at these, I was commenting. I think I was commenting to Tom.
Yeah.
Is that so? Hi, honey. Karen has a little bit of OCD, so those types of images makes her itch.
So funny.
I've had a couple of people come up to me now, friends and colleagues, say, I almost drove off the road because I saw one. And another one, my girlfriend's like, that's all I look for now.
My biggest question that I've got for you is, how do you take the pictures? Do you I'm actually worried for your physical health.
There are a couple of methods. One is you just pull over and run into the middle of the road and grab the picture when it's clear and then run right back.
Hysterical.
There was one, I was stopped at a red light and I looked out and there was one outside my window. And so I just grabbed my phone and blink, and right back, green light, go.
So funny. Yeah. Well, very good.
And there are a couple that I haven't been able to get because they're in such high traffic areas. They're sort of
they're kind of
they're like my gold ring.
Your holy grail.
There's one at the corner of on Sepulveda, just south of Ventura Boulevard, that I would love to get because it's beautiful.
That's
in a horrible
funny.
way, but there's no way I can get it because it's not in a crosswalk. It's about 100 yards off of Ventura Boulevard.
Mike, you have to sacrifice for your art. You got to do it.
I'm not going to sacrifice a limb.
All right, well, we got a question, I heard?
Yeah, we do. So two things. So number one, we have a question from Evelyn. So she says, what are your thoughts on competing against an all-cash, fast-close investor offer?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough thing because, they're going to see the cash in their eyes, and that's pretty much going to be it for them. They're going to be able to close early and fast. What you got to do in those kind of circumstances, your agent's got to, and it's an interesting thing. I think a lot of the newer agents don't understand to do this, is to really contact the other side and see if there's something else you can give them that would be valuable to them. Something like a free rent back or something like that. Like if you really don't have to move into it in the next couple of months or whatever, let them, have those couple of months while they're looking for their place. It's all about really finding the leverage that will help you. And that's about the only thing you can do. It's going to be tough. Cash is king. But there's also delayed financing, if you want to talk really briefly
delayed
about
financing. So if you have the means, right? So obviously you have to have the means. So
You have
let's
to have the
say
means.
if it's $1 million is the listing price and that's what you agree to, then you could actually buy the property all cash. But then once you close escrow, you could get money out, right? So you don't have to tie all of your assets all in one into the home. You could do a delayed financing where you're able to, keep the $200,000 in terms of the, whatever the down payment is, and then be able to get $800,000 back, right? So you now finance it for the $800,000. So delayed financing allows you to compete against an all cash offer.
Great.
We do have
One more question. Let's do one question really quick.
Yeah. So then the other.
By the way, I don't think they're going to shut us down, so we can take another couple minutes if we're going to do that. But
Yeah,
go ahead.
all right.
If you guys are there, I'm going to talk.
So I saw that Ian is online. So we
Ian,
wanted to say some
congratulations
things.
on
Yeah.
your new certification. Ian just got certified as a master inspector. Is that what it was?
Yeah, master inspector.
Master inspector.
Yeah.
Good job. Ian, I wish you were here with us. Hopefully next time on the next podcast.
I didn't know to call him sir or doctor.
I know, right? Is he knighted?
Yeah.
Did you get did some royalty put a sword on each side of your head? And well, awesome. Well, thank you guys very much for coming and watching. I really appreciate it. Mike, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for the invite.
And
This has been fun.
Good. I'm glad you had a good time. Just so you know, if you want to get in touch with us, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. Our handle is @Clarified Realty, all one word. You can also get us here. You probably already got us on Facebook.com/Clarified Realty Podcast. And listen to our Clarified Realty Podcast. We download every single Wednesday. We got a new episode that's tomorrow that is actually us going into more depth about the tips that we were talking about.
Yeah, we actually have 10.
We actually have quite a few more. So yeah, that'll be hitting tomorrow. It'll be a lot more in depth, hints and tips for buyers in this market. So that's about it. Ron, you good?
I'm great.
Mike, you good?
Very.
Well, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for everything. And remember, the best thing you could ever do is make someone feel at home. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.